Hello, my name is Pablo Garcia. I've been working with QA and test since 1996. And I did a presentation regarding QA, how to do it, how to manage to make it work in SAFe. And this is a recording. I've been asked to do a recording in English about it. So this is it. I started in 1996 for Ericsson. As a tester, I became a test manager, a test project manager, a project manager. And between 1999 and the year 2000, I was responsible for all the development in Ericsson for India. And during all this way, we learned different ways of testing software and creating software. For the last years, I've been presenting and helping and working with QA and test questions in all different process and ways: RUP, Agile, Kanban, Scrum, and SAFe. And this is the things and the problems we have arisen and seen in the SAFe community or working in SAFe. There's one thing I really like, and I really like doing things right the first time. And you're going to see this is something that goes through the complete presentation. If you do things right the first time, you don't have to think about redoing them or using time to fix things that should never have been created wrongly from the beginning. So let's talk a little bit of the agenda. We'll talk about SAFe, the things that are missing in SAFe, I think. Some general problems, the three major problems actually. The overall test design is one of them. The next one is the CE, continuous integration and continuous deployment pipe, which is not used properly. And then QA work within the team is something I see often not working perfect. The actual problem, the problem is not the QA itself. There's a bigger problem that we'll come up to later and talk about. And then if you have any questions, you can please ask them. Just fast, go around what SAFe is about. So SAFe is a scaled agile framework which helps out to create bigger teams than just one team and put that together in a streamlined way and create something that are called release trains and put them in parallel with each other and work in many different levels. So that means that we have many different configurations of SAFe also. And we have the essential SAFe, which is the smallest one. We have large solution. The portfolio SAFe, which is another way of creating the requirements and the product ownership from the top, really well defined these processes. And then we have the full SAFe. And I'm just going to talk about the essential SAFe because there's no actually test and QA anywhere else in the solution except some parts in the two parts in the essential SAFe actually. This is the essential SAFe, and in it we're testing. They're talking about QA and test in two places. One is in the bottom right corner, which says built-in quality, and the other one is in the system team, which is just beside it. That's actually the only places where I really go through on how to do with quality and testing. And there's some parts missing there too. And I really want to add on things to this process to SAFe. If you really want to make it work in a larger operation, you really need to add some things. And we're going to go through these two places where you can actually see where they talk about testing and quality assurance. And the first one is in the built-in quality. And there's 5 different points in there. There's flow, architecture and design quality, code quality, system quality, and release quality, which is the 5 major points there. The other part I was speaking about is the system team, which has some responsibility for it. But if we go back to the built-in quality, it goes flow. It talks about test first and CD pipeline. Yeah, so it helps with the developers with test first and TDD and do your stuff properly, which is really important, okay? It also talks that you have to have a continuous delivery pipeline and continuous integration, but it doesn't say how to do it in detail. There's nothing really about testing there. You have the architecture and design quality, support future business needs, design for quality, and design for ease testing. Yes, it just gives you bullets, and it doesn't tell you actually in detail how to do these things. The code quality with unit test and test-driven development, with paired work, collective ownership, and code standards. It just talks about what the developer is supposed to do. And we all know the developers are not testers. As soon as you leave the code level, it's really hard for a developer to do their things. You need another profession for that. It talks about system quality with create alignment internally and continuous integration with end-to-end. Yeah, but how do you continuously integrate end-to-end flows when the team is responsible for one part, a small part of this flow? It just says that you have to do it, but it doesn't say how. And then we have the release quality, supporting compliance, scalability, scalable definition of done. Yeah, but it doesn't say anything about definition of ready. So DOR is also missing here. But this is just the first one. Okay, the next one, just still going through the definitions in SAFe. The next one is there's a part in this part which says TDD creates a large set of developer level tests, which allows quality assurance and QA and test personnel to focus on other testing challenges instead of spending time finding and reporting code level bugs. I would actually say it says we should do more important stuff. They can focus on more complex behaviors and interactions between components. Yeah, we can focus on that. It doesn't say how or when and with whom and what is the goal with it. It doesn't help us any way more than that. So the test design doesn't talk about test design at all. How important is it? It doesn't say that at all. It just says we should do more important stuff. Yeah, thank you for that. But there's no help in it. There's no framework to help out how to do it. The second part is the system teams part in SAFe, also in the right hand corner. It goes through 5 different parts, which is build them 5 different responsibilities. Building development infrastructure, solution integration, end-to-end testing. Oh, this is hopeful, isn't it? System and solution demos and release. And let's talk fast through them, okay? The first one says building development infrastructure, okay? Create and maintain the continuous delivery pipeline tool chain. Yeah, we create and maintain the chain, okay? Including continuous integration, automated builds verification testing, and automated deployment. We create the pipeline. Yeah, it doesn't say anything of how to use it and how to test with it. Create platforms and environments for development, solution demos, and user acceptance testing. Yeah, so we are ISIT, the people that create these platforms. This was in the last millennium a part of a test manager's responsibility, but today the test environments are so complicated that it's very seldom that a test manager actually creates this. So this is more like the ISIT department that helps you to create, install stuff for you. Facilitate the technical aspects of collaboration with third parties. So data or service providers. So we talk about connection with third parties, okay? It's really good, really good. It's necessary, but it's not about testing yet. Solution integration. The solution integration, the second one, in the team there, in the solution team, build and system team, build and verification handling. That's what they talk about. Version handling in the builds. That's what it talks about. So let's jump on to the next one. It's short, okay? Now we talk about the end-to-end testing. So this is the part of SAFe when they define end-to-end testing. And we create newly automated test scenarios, extend test scenarios to data sets that more closely match production, organize test cases designed by individual teams in order to suits, perform manual testing and run automated tests for new features, okay, prioritize time-consuming tests, refactor and run reduced test suites where applicable. So it's more like regression testing here. Help teams create smoke tests. So we help the teams create smoke tests. The teams say what they need, isn't it? Or do we tell them what we're supposed to have? It doesn't say that. That they can run quickly and independently for developer builds. test solution performance against NFRs and assist system solution engineering, and in identifying system shortfalls and bottlenecks. So we are a part that supports the developer teams with these things, with test environments. We put together the test suites, but doesn't say exactly how the testing should be done. Yeah, everybody knows that we do need to have these things. Someone has to help out to define and run the major scope end-to-end tests. But there's nothing about test design. So what end-to-end tests should we run? What teams should run what parts of the end-to-end testing? Who's going to run them? Shouldn't the teams also run something? I don't think this is enough. Unless we give the system teams much more responsibility than what they have, it's going to be really tough to get this. And we still see that it's not enough. And we'll get to solutions in a minute. It's not enough to make good software and safe with only using these roles and these ways of doing it. Then the next thing that is missing, the next part of the system team's responsibility is system and solution demo. So the system team typically helps prepare the technical environment to reliably demo the new solution functionality. So we install the computer and so it's runnable. Yeah. Missing release, we or the solution team the system team have a broad end-to-end solution experience, which means they understand what it is and what it does. With this perspective, the system team can support the arts. It's fun, isn't it? So suddenly they are installing computers, making sure they work for the demos, running end-to-end tests. I mean, it sounds like they're supposed to do everything at the same time, instead of being responsible for the overall test design. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. This is something that's really missing in SAFE. Someone that really thinks about overall QA and have that responsibility. And general problems. There's 3 general problems. The first one is the general test design is missing. There's no one that's responsible all over everything to say this is how we should test things. This is the definition of ready or definition of done for each step of the way. The teams can more or less do what they want, oftenly. So there's no one putting the foot down and slamming the hand into the table and saying, stop it, we're not doing the right thing. The second one is the DevOps. The CI/CD, the continuous integration and continuous development pipelines, are not used properly. I tend to say it's like delivering a hamburger from McDonald's to a house using a big, huge truck. You're not really using the truck in an efficient way. You're missing a lot of things. And the third one is testing QA in the team. So in the team, that's the third general problem we have. In the team, people don't really know what to do. And I'm going to talk about these 3 general problems that I see out there in I would say almost all implementations of SAFE. So in general test design, how are you supposed to have many parallel teams, many parallel trains maybe? It's really, really hard to do that. So who's doing what and when, and how do we optimize the testing so that we can test as much as possible within the team? So today, the teams are responsible for their own test design. The system team, they are responsible for the end-to-end test design, but for many other things too. But there's no really responsible for the whole thing. There's no one making sure that all the teams have at least the same minimum level of testing so that the end product can be as good as we want it to be. I mean, we all know it just takes one team not doing their job, so that makes the system might not be usable at all. So that's what we think about. So who's responsible for the QA? And right now, we have the different roles. We have the business owners, we have the system architect, the product management, the RTE, and they are running the whole thing, okay? Underneath that, you have the agile teams, the product owner, the scrum master, and the team. And I know that one of the best solutions here is to put in an overall responsible for the QA, overall responsible for QA. And I'll put it in there. A QA architect should work together with the system architect and product management, the product manager. Those three are called the three amigos in many models, as I understand. You know, development, test, and requirements, or PO. Okay, if you put this together in a team, they can really take responsibility over you. But we're missing the QA in plain safe today. That means that we're delivering stuff that has not been doesn't have the quality ensured or measured from a high level overall. What does a QA architect do then? It's a good question, isn't it? Well, this is what I think. It's responsible for the general test design. Make sure that everything that has to be tested has a design for it, but mainly for the general test design. So how should the integration test be done? How should the end-to-end test be done? How can you correlate that with the performance testing, for example? He's also the part, together with the other three guys in the leading group there, that defines the definition of ready and definition of run. So done. What should have been done before you start delivering? What should have been done before you start developing? What has to be in place, the definition of ready, before you can start testing, you know? So he is the specialist helping out to make sure that this is defined and implemented throughout all the trains. So we have a minimum level of quality from the beginning in each team. Guess you understand what I mean. So there's a lodestar saying this is the direction we want for our QA. And that's going to really build the QA from the bottom up. It paves for testability. So the synchronization that will happen with a QA architect is going to be amazing. People are going to start talking to each other and force each other to have a minimum level of quality in their product. They're going to have responsibility of the test environments. Yeah. The QA architect will define and help out to make sure that the test environments needed for the long system test flows, end-to-end flows, integration test flows are there, that they are there. And I'll get back to that, because a single team that's responsible for a small part of the system has a very hard time being responsible for a test environment that holds the whole system that can go from end to end. It's really hard for one team to do it. Someone has to define it and have responsibility for it. But the team will need it. And we're going back to that later when we get to how to work within the teams. So they're going to need it, but someone needs to be able to create them, define them, and make sure they're there. The QA architect decides how and who should test the flows in the system. We don't need a big department called system test like we had in the old days. We can reuse the people in the teams and make sure that this team is responsible for that flow and this team is responsible for that flow. But who is going to be responsible for who is going to do it? If there's no responsible overall, different teams will try to do the same flows and some flows will not be tested. So it's the same thing. It has to do with the overall test design. Someone needs the responsibility over the non-functional testing, the security, the performance, the usability. If no one sits down and says, hey, we have to do this, then it's not going to be done properly. It might be done in some parts, but not in other parts. So that's one responsibility too. And 7, tool support. I mean, everybody needs tool support, and we all know that agility really needs good technical skills. So here we have someone or a group of people that will help out with this, make sure the tools are there. Okay, together with the team, the system team, he will be able to get this in place. But someone has to define it and make assessment. What is the best tool and what is not the best tool to use, and implement them also within the teams. And then we have the quality process support. I mean, if you're a tester or developer in a team or a scrum master or whatever, and you need help with your QA, who are you going to ask, you know? You need someone that really knows about QA and testing to be able to ask. This role is also, in this case, is also a test strategist, as we call it in Sweden. Someone that really knows quality assurance and really knows testing, knows how to measure quality. They know how to create a test design where you know what you test, what you don't test, and why you don't test what you don't test. And also knows how to try to make sure to not miss to test anything really important. And I guess all of us understand that that's one of the major problems we have. We don't test in the way the many important things that we forgot to test. So this is the first one. So if you have a QA architect, this person needs to know this properly, they work properly, and they will be able to answer all these questions. And we all know, and most of us have been working with these really, really good people that will help out in all levels. Set the definition of ready, definition of done. It's really hard. We're not talking about a Scrum Master, which is really good at making people work together. It's not a release train engineer to synchronize a huge amount of people. You know, it's amazing. Or a system architect that can define the architecture and know, so how should we create it internally? Or the requirement responsible, product management, you know, what should we have and what's the gain of it? This is the top level hotshot that really knows QA. And if you don't have that, it's going to be like a bunch of youngsters not knowing where to go. Everybody's going to go their own direction. So a QA architect is crucial to make especially a large, safe implementation work. The next one is continuous integration and continuous deployment. Let's set this up. There you go. So what is it about? Well, if you have the pipe, the continuous integration and the continuous deployment pipe in place, just to have that is very important, of course, because then the developer will be able, as an example, the developer creates software, changes software, and he enters it and checks it in. It's version handled, and you can run test cases as soon as they check it in. Test cases will be run on this software. And it's really good that these automated test cases will be run. It's very fast. It's very easy to do that. And also the bugs that are found with the software are easy and cheap to fix. And on top of that, if the feedback loop is so fast that the software, the testing is that fast that they can put the developer and go, oh, now I understand what the bug is. At the same time, they will also learn not to do the same bugs again, not to do the same mistakes again. So it's really strong to have the CD/CI pipeline. But the testing that is done with this pipeline is mostly, in my point of view, is just driving a hamburger from McDonald's to a house somewhere and transporting with a big Scania truck. I mean, you can do so much more with it if you actually know what you put in it. And the pipeline right now, I ask, how much are you testing in the pipeline? And they will go, lots. And I go, but how much are you testing? And what do you mean? So how much of the product are you testing? How much of each test level are you testing? Because if you don't use all test levels, you're missing out a lot of the really important testing. And they will go, Pablo, what don't you understand? We test the lots. And someone will say, no, it's even better than that. We test everything. And we all know that we can't test everything. It's impossible. And if you have a question about that, if it's possible to test everything, please give me a call, okay? Or email me, and I'll tell you really fast that it's impossible. It's completely impossible to test everything. So what should you do it? Well, all test levels have to be defined. If you have let's just schematic, okay? We have a mobile phone here. So we should test it from where? Should we test it from this side or from that side, or should we test it from here? Oh, wait, we need to test every side, don't we? And what should be the first test level then? Well, it's not going to be on the outside. We'll probably screw this up and select the components, component testing, or unit testing also called. It's the same thing. If you don't have the different viewpoints or focus areas in testing, or test levels, which is focus areas, you will miss bugs. If you don't have unit testing or component testing, you will have a lot of code bugs in the code, which we will not be able to find in sprint test and system test and integration test, you know? And suddenly we have a huge problem out there in production. So every test level has a specialized test competence for that level that has to be done. And the first thing you do is define what different test levels we need. And generally we have these ones: unit test, sprint test, system test, and user acceptance testing. So what we have to do is define exactly what is the definition of ready and what is the definition of done when you're going to start with each of these test levels. So when the software is inserted in is checked in, then the unit tests will automatically run. And if they show green, but the automated tests there in unit testing, they have to be measured. You need measurements and everything. And my suggestion is that you should have at least 80% code line coverage. And code line coverage is just the simplest way of measuring it, okay? It's not branch coverage or decision coverage or other coverages that are more in detail. Just the easiest one, okay? Code line coverage has at least 80% code line coverage. Aim for 100, you might get to 80. And this is just amazing, because then the developer, if it passes and shows green, suddenly you will know as a developer, hey, it passed. I'm pretty sure, and my conscience is very eased that this actually will work out there. The next one that might come just automatical right after that is the sprint testing. We used to call it function testing, where you actually test each function thoroughly and try to find as many bugs on each function of it. It's not functional testing, it's another thing. That's functional and non-functional. This is function testing. You take each part and you test it thoroughly, you know? Like login, you test that really thoroughly. And that should be done manually normally within the team. These two are the ones that you do in the team. And you can automate it also. Isn't it good if when the developer checks in his code, both unit test and sprint test is also, hey, you almost heard me say the wrong word there. Just unit test and sprint test is delivered right there and then. It's really good. I'm going to go to the next slide too. So mainly the team is responsible for those two test levels. And then you have the system test, which is the next one. And that should be automated tests, first manually and then automated tests, that also should be put in the CI/CD pipeline. Amazing, isn't it? I'm not going to talk too much about user acceptance testing, but the user acceptance testing is very hard to automate. There are some semi-automated ways of doing it, which you can do, you know, but mainly it's the users doing it. Just define the flows and do it manually. But there are some ways. I'm not going to talk about that now. If you need something, I'm going to put up my email address and just email me, okay, if you need. But in the team, you do the unit test and sprint test and then the system test. And who's responsible for the system test? Design. Well, that's the QA strategist, okay? That's the person that will say, okay, this is how it should look like. This is how it should be automated too. You should have people automating these long end-to-end test cases or reusing the different teams and put them then in a certain order, whatever is most efficient. But wouldn't it be really, really nice if the developer checks in his code and he automatically runs the unit tests and he knows, hey, the code is fine. The light is green. The sprint tests are run, or the function tests, you know, every function is really tested. And you have 100% function coverage in that one. So you test 100% of all the functions. And if that gives you a green light, I mean, it hasn't even gone to the tester. After that, imagine you have automatically the proper test environments delivered by the test strategist and his team, the QA architect. There's so many words. The QA architect sends it. They prepare the test environment and the test cases. So straight after the sprint test, automatically the system test and the end-to-end test cases are run. Isn't that amazing? It is really amazing. I've seen a couple of places doing that. Suddenly the developer develops, puts it in and goes, unit test passed, automatically over to sprint test. All the functions are working. Then automatically going over to some end-to-end scripts they have not made, but someone else has made for their system in a proper test environment. And suddenly he goes, oh, I see the code is fine, the functions are fine, but the system test shows that my change makes it not able to print out on the printer on the next floor. You can find these amazing bugs that are really serious if they go to production, very simply and very fast and very cheap also. It's even before it hits the first tester in the team. And on top of that, the developers are learning all the time not to do the same mistakes. It's amazing, isn't it? I would really wish everybody to do this and think this through, that if you have a CI pipeline, it's not just having it. That's the important thing, is how much do you test and how do you test? How deep do you test also? Let's go back a little bit fast. 100%, aim for 100% code line coverage in the unit testing. Be happy with 80, okay? After 50% code line coverage, you really see big differences. You can make a small change or a big change, doesn't matter. The product is still stable. That's really nice. The next one is the sprint test. Automate that from the tester in the team, and they will also be responsible for the manual testing to be able to make sure that these test cases work, and to be sure that the test design shows that 100% functional testing is done. And then the system test, or the end-to-end testing, and the non-functional testing, and all these things that the QA strategist, the QA architect was responsible for, they are they have 100% requirement coverage in it. And please don't look on the internet what requirement coverage means for testing, okay? Because it's lots of bad things written about it. It's not that. How many percent of all the requirements in system test are covered? We're not talking about the quality of the coverage. We're just talking the quality of the testing, how we're doing it. If you're there, I would say you're home free. You're home free. The product will be created and delivered almost only once to the next level, out to production, which is amazing, because how many times do we have to redeliver? And that's the third thing I'm going to talk about, QA in the team, within the team. So this is what happens many times. We have a team that is created. They start creating a product. They run the first sprint, and they go, yeah, we deliver. It goes to production, version 1.0. It's really good, isn't it? We're done. We did the sprint. We worked very closely. We're very happy with each other. I mean, life is good. We're happy and we have fun at work, don't we? There's a lot of responsibility. In sprint 2, if we're lucky, we're only disturbed once from the code in sprint 1 because it wasn't finished. They found a bug in production. We have to fix that bug, and suddenly two things happen. We had to use time for that, so that we had to redo things in sprint 1, and then we did not finish everything in sprint 2. So you understand, we were not able to finish. We're already late, But Scrum says and Agile says you can replan, so that's not a problem, or is it? You go to sprint 3 and sprint 4, and you will be disturbed of the things that should have been done from the beginning properly. And many teams I know of, they come to sprint 5 and nothing new is created. They are just fixing bugs within code that is not tested in any of the levels we talked about. It's in production. It's almost impossible to fix the bugs. And the only thing they do is try to resuscitate this code to do what it's supposed to. And people think, no, Pablo, this testing will cost too much. No, it's not. It's already paid back. Within the sprint, you start doing proper testing. Within the same sprint, within the 2 weeks, if you put 1 hour in the beginning of creating automated test cases of any test level, you're home free by the end. But already in that sprint, you gained back that time. Already there. And then add on the gain for all the other sprints coming up next for that functionality. I mean, it's just crazy not using proper test design and doing all the test levels properly. It's just crazy. It is the fastest way of doing it. But why? Why don't we do it then? Why don't we do it? Well, I'm going to go straight to the point number 5 here, personal accountability. So why don't we do this? Why does the teams have problems? And the major problem is the personal accountability. We're looking for heroes. No one gets a raise of salary because they are not sending bugs in production. But the ones that fix the bugs in production during the weekend and save the company, they get a raise in salary because they're so important for the company. You understand? The hero focus in companies, that it's not about creating good code so we can create new good code. It's about being seen in the organizations to get higher salary and be the hero. That is the major problem. And not taking personal accountability and thinking, hey, I created that code. I did not test that code. There's something wrong. I have to do this properly. So that is the major problem we have. And make sure that people understand this, and personal accountability is one of the crucial things for QA in the team to make it work. The next thing is genuine test competence has to exist in the team. Not have, many times I come in, and I'm gonna say it like I think it is, like I see it actually. Come to organizations and they say we have 1 or 2 testers in each team, and we still have crappy products. And I go, yeah, it's like playing football or soccer, as we say in Europe. And they go, what do you mean? Well, you can play soccer if you're 6 years old, but it's not the same as if you're 15 years old. And it's not the same as if you're a Zlatan or a Messi, top level in the world. They really know how to play. And that is, if you don't have genuine test competence, you're playing soccer with a 6-year-old. I mean, you have a 6-year-old on the team. I don't know if you've seen it. Everybody runs after the ball, both teams run after the ball. And there's 2 other kids always really bored. And there's the goalies on one on each side because the ball never gets there, okay? That's not the way to play proper football. The proper football is you have every man in each position doing the right thing. And that is what genuine test competence will do for your team. You understand? And it's really hard. It's hard to find really good people with test competence. But if you have that, it's worth every penny. I suggest you look at a video in YouTube saying, I think it's a Japanese video. There's a team of football players. I think it says professional football playing against 100 kids or 109 kids. And you see, I think it's 3 players playing against 100 kids. And it's amazing. There's just heads all over the field. How many professional players do you need to beat? And I think it's 12 years old or 14-year-old kids, How many of these professional players do you need to beat 100 youngsters? I mean, one is over. You don't need more than one. And you can see that video. I'll try to put that link underneath here, okay? That's a really good video to watch. And that is the thing. If you have a really good player in your team, it will just lift the complete team, because that's the only one that really knows QA, okay? And they will help you out right away. Yeah, who wants to play in a team with 6 years old or really good with Messi and Zlatan? That would be really nice, wouldn't it? Number 2, definition of ready and definition of done is taken seriously. Personal accountability, okay? Entry and exit criteria was the old name of it. I mean, you should not do stuff unless you're ready to do it and you know what to do and how to do it. I mean, the things that come into you should be correct. And then you should know when you're done, what you should have done when you're done. And for the next level to know, for example, user acceptance testing, when I run that, no one is passing by. The definition of ready is not passed unless we have proper test reports from unit test, sprint test, and system test that they have tested enough. At least 80% unit test code line coverage, 100% function requirement coverage, and 100% system requirement coverage with end-to-end test. That is what I require. Otherwise, we as users are finding technical bugs. We're supposed to measure the value of the system, the efficientness. Are we reaching the goals we want? Are we making more money with the system, new version? So you understand, we need to say stop. We need to do our job, not try not just let things go so that we can save the company during the weekend. Number 4, a team must be in sync with other teams relating QA. The QA responsible here, it's not enough that he or she is really good. They have to speak with other teams so that they can correlate and help each other. And that's even better, you know. You can actually get the help of things that other teams have done before you. Really, really good to do that. So synchronize. And then we come to the real problem. So what is the real problem? I'm going to go fast, but you understand it. It's not about the wasted time of fixing bugs the first, the second, the third time. The wasted time and the lack of resources and go, oh, I need more people to do this. It's not about that. It's not about the quality, because this is a loop. It just gets worse and worse and worse. It gives worse quality. It wastes more time. You need more resources to be able to keep up something that was actually dead and rotten from the beginning. But the problem is that your company is not able to fight with the competition. If I ask for something as a product owner and the development team says it's going to take 3 months, and then after 6 months they're not even ready with the first release, and this is very often, this happens very often, and I guess most of you knows about it. A project should have taken 1 year, and after 1.5 years we were still not ready, or 2 years. That makes that you cannot fight with your competition. It's impossible to do that, and your company will over time die. That's how easy that is. And if you look at all the companies that are making the most money in the industry, at the top company in all the different areas, you will know that they do have a proper QA architect or test strategist. They will have proper QA competence in each team. Okay, that's what they're able to fight against the competitors. So it's actually, today, most of us are working in inefficient organizations. So I think actually that it's fairly simple for us just to do things right from the beginning, and we will be able to beat most of our competitors. This is really good. I love this one. We aim for drama-free development. I have nothing to say, and I say it regularly. It's amazing, these people. I worked with one in Ericsson. He was just sitting in a corner. We tested his stuff. There was never bugs to go into production, you know. But the problem was that nobody saw him. But he was the one creating the most software that worked in production. Nobody saw him. So he had to finish and leave for another company, because it was only the heroes, you know, that were seen. Okay, friends. Any questions? It's right now, I think, impossible for you to do them. But please send them in an email to me as soon as possible and as fast as possible, and I will answer them as soon as I can. And if I cannot answer them, at Expleo we have a huge team, lots of teams, in many different areas that we really know how to fix things. So just give me a call. We will also have another video coming up soon regarding how to, not just from the QA point of sight, but how to make safe work from a developer and architect kind of side. So please take care out there, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.